What's up, guys? It is Thursday night. It's our final presentation for the day on CDA live streams. We're here with Stephen Martz from THX. How's it going, Stephen?
It's going great. Thank you guys so much for having me on here. I'm a big fan of what you do, and just honored to be considered to be part of your presentation lineup.
I really appreciate that. It's funny because we were talking, of course, we got Matthew Pose and Don Dunn. Stephen, we were talking behind the scenes before, and it turns out you were at THX as long as some of the originators of THX, and even like John Dahl, for example, who I've known for years, and somehow our paths never crossed. But you're basically one of the main guys from THX that have been around for over 20 years or so, right?
Yeah, going on almost 25 years now.
Wow.
Starting back in, working with Lucasfilm back in the day, and working with all these great products throughout the years. And very, very happy to have been there for such a long time.
I mean, how cool was that? You worked for Lucasfilm. I mean, wow, that's pretty cool.
I was spoiled, that's for sure. I mean, working for a great, company like that, and having George at the helm, really looking out for the employees and just trying to feed into the creativity and magic that they
Right
create,
on.
So.
Yeah. Well,
have they done any movies that I would know? Are they Lucasfilms? What have they done?
The Indiana Jones movie, right?
THX 1138.
There was Howard the Duck.
Howard the Duck. That's a classic.
That's a good movie.
Willow, Mad Monaghan.
There's
Mad
Willow.
Monaghan. Yeah.
I actually loved Willow. That was a good movie.
I love. It's one of my favorites.
And Star Trek. It's Star Trek, right? No, they didn't do that one.
Star Trek.
No.
Star Trek.
Star Wars.
It's Wars.
Oh yeah,
Star Wars.
Big
I
title.
heard of
Oh
that movie.
man,
that was a flop, right? Yeah.
I don't think it did well. I don't think anyone likes it.
Yeah, it's poor George.
Not the new ones, at least. But anyway.
Oh, shut up. So yeah, we're gonna geek out on you a little bit, Stephen. Just be ready for that, man.
Yeah. So part of the reason why, Stephen, I wanted to have you here is we've had interviews in the past with John about THX levels and all that stuff, but some stuff has changed. You guys have new certification levels. You have Beyond Ultra. There used to be Ultra 2. Now that kind of went away. Now it's Ultra. So I wanted you to kind of go on, give us a rundown of all the different levels of certification and all the new technologies that are coming out with THX. And I want to talk to you about the Dominus spec, because we tested a loudspeaker with the Dominus spec. It's one of the best speakers we've ever measured, and it can't be a coincidence.
maybe not. Yes, would love to tell you all about that and more, and all the stuff that THX is doing.
Awesome. So I'm going to share the screen here, and Matt's going to kind of run the slide presentation for you, and you just stop us when you want.
All right, thank you, Matt. Let's move on to the next slide, please. And marketing made me put that one up there. So
Yep.
Always a legal disclaimer.
yeah, right. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, please. As we were kind of joking earlier, THX was founded by George Lucas, right? We started, I guess, now nearly almost 40 years ago now in 1983. George noticed that, all the great movie magic that he's making there in the studios is just not being translated into the cinema, so people go to the cinema and, man, he just made, Empire Strikes Back, and it's, they're not seeing all the great stuff. So he tasked his engineering team led by Tomlinson Holman to go out there and look at the problems in the industry. He pretty much came back looking at three different areas: the audio system, the projection system, and the acoustics. Very, very important as well as being keys to the presentation. So he put together a package of technologies and specifications that later became THX, and we were born in 1983 with the release of Return of the Jedi.
Nice.
Next slide.
Don, you remember waiting around the movie theater line to get into that one?
Who's that question to? Or should we admit?
I don't think Don wants to.
I don't think his mic is on.
Yeah.
I'm showing my audience's listening poster, the classic one from THX. I'm a huge, like I said, I'm a nerd.
Show
boy,
it again.
so.
Show it again. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, the remember that poster had like Indiana Jones and that was when they were talking about the movie theater spec. So yeah. Sorry,
we have one of those
out.
Yeah, I've seen it many times. We have one of those in the office too. Amazing. I mean, that's a pretty rare one. I'm amazed that you have that.
I did. I spent a lot of money to get that poster.
Next, okay, there is that one. So our vision, we're our THX. We kind of focus on creating those high fidelity audio and video experiences. And now it's regardless of the medium of consumption. First we're looking at movies and how people can see and hear that the best. And now entertainment is everywhere. And so the main takeaway is that quality matters. Look for quality, and THX delivers on that. Next slide, please. Okay, that's right. Well, let's, kind of interesting. I don't know how many people have seen this, but this is the score for, hopefully one of the most recognizable audio sound marks in history.
Oh, yeah.
The THX Deep Note, right? It was composed by Andy Moore, and I say composed loosely because he programmed it in C, and it was a computer-generated sound mark. And as I don't know if you can see because I don't really read music either, but it starts in complete chaos and resolves itself in a perfect chord. And that's one of the most amazing things.
On.
It sort of gives, this great crescendo and satisfaction, but it's really good at sort of showing power and clarity and movement and motion. It's just an amazing piece that he's done.
That would be that'd be a great poster right there. It really would.
Yep. That's
the chord that made Grandpa
send that to me.
Teeth explode.
We'll have it printed for you, Don.
Don's Dream, THX Deep Note, right? Something like that, right?
Put on a shirt, actually.
And then Andy, we envisioned this for us a few years back because this was in 4-channel at the time, mono surrounds. So we've had that. There's the evolution of digital sound in the theater. So you have 5.1 with LFE. How do you address that? So we sort of evolved it over the years, but he completely rewrote it several years ago for immersive formats. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, so speaking of new trailers in our Deep Note, we've done a few trailers over the years. Our first one was called Wings, and that debuted the THX logo and the Deep Note sound mark, which is very super powerful. And we've done different versions with that over the years, but the most recent one is called THX Genesis, and we're super happy to bring that out. We've been lucky to work with a lot of greats in developing some of our trailers. If any of you know our Tex mascot, the guy who flies around and fixes things, that was there you go. He was developed by John Lasseter over at Pixar. So, something that was, very, we were happy to work with him on that. And then we worked with the team at American Meme with Ben Rosenblatt and Micho Rutari. They are known for Star Wars Force Awakens and Star Trek Into Darkness and other things. Also on, the animation audio side, Andrew Kramer, and then Robbie Stambler and Lindsay Alvarez. They were key in bringing this trailer together. You can go to our website and see it, and go to our YouTube channel and see a bunch of other trailers there as well. Next slide, por favor. Okay. THX started in movies and cinema, and we've evolved into other things. In 1990, we started working in bringing quality home entertainment experiences to consumers, and our ecosystem is quite broad. I mean, it goes into places where people are entertained. Whether it could be the home, it could be the cinema, your car, or personal devices as you travel around in your cars, or live entertainment spaces. So we do a lot of different things, and we're happy to bring quality to any of those. Next slide, please. So we have a growing legacy of partnerships, and here's some of those brands here. In fact, some people here watching this broadcast might be from these companies. If you are, welcome. Thank you for being here. And maybe if there's some people here that are not working with us, we'd love to work with you and do some great things. Next one, please. Here are a few pictures of the different types of products we work in. We have headphones with different manufacturers, mobile devices, be high res or telephones, mobile phones, smartphones, smart devices, or laptops, and it's displays like certified game mode we did with TCL.
So, Steve, can you touch a little bit on the game mode? What's the difference between THX certified game mode versus a receiver that already has a game mode that turns off the processing?
If you stand by, I will I will get that later in this presentation and go into depth, and please ask those questions then. Okay. All right. THX is a known brand, and you'll see it in places you'd expect to see it, especially in the most popular places you'd buy products, and you'll see THX certified products from major online retailers and your favorite brick and mortar places. And Pets R Us. So next, please.
Vicious killer, attack dog.
Yeah, sorry about that.
All right. So THX certification. Now we're getting more into the kind of questions you guys are asking. It's a globally recognized benchmark. I mean, people see the brand and they say, "Oh, look, this is something that is different than another product sitting next to it." And we think that in fact, we know from our partners, a lot of them are saying, "I need a differentiator or something like that." And I think THX is the one that differentiates and brand and says, it means something. It's a symbol of quality and a symbol of performance, and that brand is something that people really look for. Next slide, please. Looking at some of the consumers get out of it. They recognize the brand, but what does it mean to them, right? It's confidence in purchasing. If you see two brands or two products sitting next to each other, I'm trying to make a decision. If you don't know a lot about the product, what drives your purchase decision? I need a trusted brand that will say, okay, I feel comfortable about buying this speaker or this display or something that I don't know enough about this. I'm not an audiophile or videophile. It is something that's really useful. And they may or may not know, but having the THX modes are really useful to them. For a display, for example, going into turning on display in your house, putting it into a THX mode, that's just one and done. It's pre-calibrated. It's set it and forget it. Next one, please. We have a lot of different certification categories that we support within THX. A lot of them you guys know here in audio and video products and the different categories of loudspeakers and receivers and electronics, and then the video side projectors and displays. But we cover headphones, laptops, and other streaming devices, and a lot of other professional programs too. So there's a lot of things we do at THX that enhance quality. Next, please. One benefit of working with us throughout our process, and it's kind of a win-win for both THX and our partners, is that it's not too uncommon to win a best-in-class award for your product, either something that is a new product that hasn't been in the market before, or something that is really great as the best in class. So we're happy to get Editor's Choice Awards and other awards as we release products with our partners. Next, please. Here are some of those. TCL. We mentioned game mode or other modes. We talked. We released game mode with them, launched it with them, and on their 6 series televisions and other televisions. I think you already teased Perlisten and Dominus, so we're happy to have them as our launch partner. I think even last week, Monoprice, there were 2 monolith subs, a 13 and a 16. THX were certified. Super powerful products from those guys. We have there's other categories. There's Eclipse multimedia speakers there. We're been a long partner of those guys, and the Eclipse products are fantastic and very well loved by the public.
Yeah, and Octave has a whole new line of receivers now too.
So for partners, how do they work with us? And we work early in most cases, sort of in their prototype or proof of concept stage. Usually right after that, certainly in pre-production units, we have time to analyze what the product they're creating, compare it to our standards, and provide review on and comments on what the performance levels are and how they can stack up against our specifications and requirements. And then iteratively, if necessary, we go back until the product hits mass production. Once that's in there, then we have a very strong marketing component. So once the product is done, we want to tell everybody. We want to say, hey, look at this great new product that's coming out in the market. It's going to do really well, and you'll see reviews from you guys on some things, and then from other places too. So we're very happy to work with these guys. Okay, certified displays. Okay. So on our video program, I just wanted to call out kind of displays here to talk a little bit about that. You can kind of extrapolate those to projectors a little bit and see how we work. We're interested in a couple things to really make sure that the quality is kept in the displayed products. We look at the color, of course, making sure the color is accurate, looking at, the color standards, depending on which type of display we're talking about, make sure the accuracy is right, looking at the gamma, looking at certainly, we do so many tests for this. I mean, it says here 400 individual tests. That is might be on the low side. We in our lab, it takes a long time for us to run through all these displays and everything. We run, in test patterns that actually check motion processing. So we're looking at, the artifacts and things that are created during that processing. I mean, we don't want you to see things you're not supposed to see. And also look at the panel, looking at, sort of backlighting, leakage, other things that just sort of don't provide a uniform display on the display. So next one, please. I mentioned modes before. These are ways that we help the consumer automatically get into the right viewing and condition that they need for their viewing environment. So if you're in a room that is conducive to watching movies, sort of lower background light, you put that straight into THX Cinema mode. That's what I put it in on my TV. Or if you're in a very bright space, a lot of windows, you use THX Bright Room. And then there's one more that we've just launched, as I mentioned earlier, with TCL called Game Mode. If you go to the next slide, please.
So this is all related to the display side, not the AVR, right?
This is the display side. So projectors and actual TVs. So as a gamer, I really appreciate the development of this mode. There's all the other things we talked about, looking at color and, backlighting and clarity and those other things that are really important for this. But, for playing games where we really focused on making sure that the display updates as fast as the game does. I'm a console player, so I do play it on television, and keeping minimizing that lag is so important. My son plays on a mobile device, and he keeps saying I'm lagging, and I just point up at my TV and say I'm good, man. So I'm very happy for us to put this mode out.
So Steve, we have a quick super chat here, a question that maybe you could quickly answer is that if you have a subwoofer from the 90s that's ultra rated versus a subwoofer today that's ultra rated, is the output similar, or has the ultra rating changed since then?
Ultra is ultra. I'll address this a little later, but I guess I just do it now, right? So ultra is the original certification category that we had. There were no delineations amongst room size. So the specification was for what we now call ultra. So if you have something from the 90s, like the sub from Sonance, which someone else has one, that's in your house. It's the same specification, output for one for the other.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay. So game mode, please, on to the next one. Okay, you got that? Headphone certification, we look at a lot of different things here. Of course, frequency response. You think about headphones, and so what is the perfect response? Is it flat? I mean, like you think about speakers. Is it what is a good response? And we take it very seriously on how we work with headphones. And actually, when you're thinking of headphones, they're used for a lot of different things. And, especially for THX spatial audio, a lot of things are used for, with spatial audio in mind. And, making sure you have a baseline response that does, that gives you the ability to replicate those spatial cues for spatial audio are really, really, really important. You may want to have a bass heavy, mode for some music or something like that. But, the headphone needs to be, have a baseline, and that's not necessarily perfectly flat, but it's a frequency response that is able to, deliver the responses you need for the different type of content you listen to. We also, focus on isolation, if there's noise canceling headphones, making sure that, you've significantly reduced the noise across the audio spectrum, not just just in the high frequency band.
Steve, how does your frequency response curve target compare to like the Harman target curve that they've done for headphones? Is it compatible or is it different?
We support the Harman curve.
Okay.
Next one, please. Okay, audio certification. We're going to talk a lot more about this as we move through here. So that is, we do probably 500 or so tests for loudspeaker products. And we focus a lot on the response of the product, the axial response, the on-off axis, sort of like what we call listening windows, or on axis plus certain measurements around that, so that basically when you're in the the coverage pattern of the speaker, you have a very similar response as you move on and off axis. We do a lot of tests with that. Distortion is super key for us too, because we have a speaker. What is the output potential for this speaker? So we have different room categories or different throws. So we want clean sound. How far away would clean sound would that distance be? So we do measurements looking at distortion and rating a speaker based on its performance category and distance.
Are the measurements done anechoic, or do you do them in room and then gated, or how does that work exactly?
No, there's a combination of different ones we do. Yes. We do quasi anechoic, in-room listening. We do different versions of those types of tests depending on the product and what they need. Okay.
So I have a question related to this. We don't know the details of your standard for obvious reasons, but we've been able to infer a little bit. And one of the things that James Larson, who does a lot of measurements, and I have noted is, just as an example, the distortion thresholds that we can assume based on what all the THX products we measure tend to be are really low compared to other standards like the CEA 2010 and 2034 standards. Impressively so. I mean, it means the products are producing high output with unusually low distortion. And basically, often, in order to meet your spec, it appears that they're limiting them so they just can't overload. Versus a lot of other products in the market, we've noticed it seems like, maybe they could achieve the same distortion, but then the system is allowed, like a subwoofer is allowed to drive itself to a point of horrific distortion. And with 2034 or 2010, it may still pass their standard, but it appears it probably would have failed yours.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, our Ultra program has started a long time ago, and it has been, a high standard, for the industry, and people know that when they pass it, it is a very, very good product. And we, appreciate the our partners that bring in the product and are successful when they pass THX certification. So I can't really comment on comparisons between our specs and other agencies.
No, it's fair enough, but it is impressive when we do test the products that how well they often do compared to what we're used to seeing.
Yeah, we've measured 2 THX Ultra subs recently, and they've both come out. In fact, one of them was a Dominus, right? The Paralyssin was a Dominus.
The Paralyssin's a Dominus sub. Yeah, the distortion was the lowest we'd ever measured. Also, was almost impossible to overdrive the thing.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. Okay, and next one, please. Okay, so performance categories. I'll talk about these. I kind of narrowed it down to 4 here to talk about. which includes the Dominus one, but it gives you an idea of kind of how we look at loudspeakers and rooms and systems. And they put them together. We kind of our baseline, we started within the movie industry, right? And we're looking at replicating movie content in the home theater. So we talk about 1990-ish and forward from there. So the ultra size room there was our standard size room. So we're looking at if I need to reproduce studio level sound in this room at whatever distance, what are the parameters I need, specification I need to replicate that? We look at a listening distance, we look at a room volume, and that reference level is 85 dB in the studio, and we replicate that same level in the home theater. There's 20 dB of headroom on the track there, so we're looking at that as part of the system. So reference level at listening distance, and then there's headroom on top of that as well. And then each component within that is specified as in a certain way for its performance, for the way that it works together, speaker with amplifier, and then placement in the room.
So Don and I go back to the time when you guys had an Ultra 2 certification on your receivers and speakers and stuff like that. Does that fit? What is that up? Was Ultra 2 up to like 5,000 cubic feet?
No, so actually we just call it Ultra because it became kind of more of a technology indicator than it became a standard, right? And THX is just this performance level is like, it's the speaker. I kind of mentioned the reference level. Like, so we need to accomplish, that reference level in this room with the clean sound, right? How do we get clean sound to the listener's ear in a room, like this? Right. So really those types of, performance goals don't change too much, really. Maybe you have different technologies of how you get there, but it's not really different in what your goal is, right? So we've released technologies over time that have gone into receivers, and just we started making different numbers like that. But we don't do that a lot. We just call it Ultra and Select because those features, as we bring them out, we roll them into products, but we don't.
So differentiate little note, I actually owned the first THX certified system, which is the Snell Music and Cinema Reference. Then I actually owned I owned the whole system. It was crazy. Then I actually owned the Snell XA60s, which was the first THX Ultra 2 certified system. And there's definitely some advancements in technology. I mean, it's hard to beat that Music and Cinema Reference because it was a $35,000 system, but I could tell some
you have some rich blood there.
No, I bought it used. Trust me, I bought it from a crackhead. No, but there was the Ultra 2 definitely had more musicality to it. I guess it wasn't so strict as the original one.
Mm-hmm. And so, those could be a couple of things. Like I said, our standard is kind of still looking at it. We have included some different technologies, but it may just straight down to Snell making. They decided to make a different product that tested and sounded better.
So we have a quick question on the spec that you're showing here. Is the Ultra up to 18 feet, not 12 feet? Is that a typo, or is that deliberate that it's 12 feet on the Ultra?
That's 12. I'm going to go into the actual individual classes here in the next couple of slides. So maybe we should do that, and I can talk about them in each one. So let's go to the next one. I'll talk about compact. All right. So compact is, smaller room types, about 1,000 cubic feet. And we kind of mentioned room volumes in these because, I mentioned, being Ultra being the first one. How do you define a room for somebody? Like, how big is it? So we decided to go for room volume, so you talk about, throw from speaker to listener's ear, and then also low frequency, kind of looking at volume, what kind of space you need to, an in-room response for low frequency. So we looked at it in those two components, room volume and distance to listener, right? So in this size space, it's a small, cozy space. You probably might have a 5.1 system, or we have, something like an integrated system, which you might call home theater box or something like that. We're in this size room, and it's really good for can we say gaming or whatever? It's a great gaming space for me. Let's go to the next one. And then Select. Select was the other program that we developed, or so the second program that we developed, once we named them. We came out with, took the original program and called it Ultra, and then we developed Spec, a Select for smaller size rooms. So 3,000 cubic feet for the largest one. And this is designed for 2,000 cubic feet, and we're talking about 10-foot listening distance from the speaker to the listener's ear, and it's more medium sized rooms that you might find in your typical home. And I kind of call this one might be good one for streaming, Mm-hmm. Let's move to the next one. Okay. And then, so here, is the reference or baseline, a large room, usually kind of a dedicated room. You're probably looking at 2 rows of seating, kind of a large screen. Maybe if it's a projection, you might, have 10-foot screen or something like that, or a large display. Nowadays you can get a display large enough to support a room of this size. But, typically, more projection. I'm in 3,000 cubic feet. I think our reference room at THX is, it's 9 by 21 by 16 in size. So it supports 2 rows of seating, kind of like this. It was a 5.1, expanding to 7.1, and certainly like a 7.1.4 type immersive sound system would be really appropriate for that size space. And that's great for movies. Let's move on to the next one. And Dominus.
In a world gone mad.
The largest and most powerful THX certified performance class.
This time it's personal.
Yeah. So the reason this exists is because you have those other classes I mentioned. So you have smaller spaces in which you have systems delivering audio. But then once you start getting into larger spaces, it's really, really hard for speakers to hi-fi speakers, if I just call it that as a kind of category, to reproduce sound cleanly up and actually even at level up into these larger spaces where you get these longer throws. And it just became kind of a no man's land between maybe a cinema type speaker like you might find in a studio, a traditional cinema type systems are high power, large transducers, and lots of power you put in them, and then the hi-fi stuff. So you're kind of in the middle, and really, so you had maybe choose a cinema system or something else until technology kind of catches up with this. And I think we're kind of in this space now where especially with our launch partner ProListen, you've kind of got technology and engineering catching up where they can really start producing the output levels necessary. The high frequencies, so with minimal distortion, and certainly there's low frequencies too. Getting that volume without just a bunch of rattling in these rooms. So it was really great to be able to actually execute this program that we've been wanting to do for a long time, and have product that can support these larger spaces. Because you have audio processors that can support 24 channels of immersive audio, but you have these sound systems that may or may not do that. So how can I have something with the incredible fidelity of these other systems yet in these larger spaces? So here we are with Dominus. It's basically a double of Ultra, if you think about it that way. We have a 6,500 cubic foot room versus 3,000, so give or take a listening distance of up to 20 feet instead of a listening distance of 12 feet of reference listening distance. So you're kind of moving. It's 3 rows of seating or more. Instead of 2 rows of seating. So that another doubling of everything, and you get about 6 dB output total in this system versus an Ultra system. So there are questions here. You want to tell me?
Yeah, actually, I have a quick question. I was just thinking. So if somebody is a THX certified dealer or an installer, and they assemble all the equipment that's THX certified, the receiver, the speakers, subwoofers, do you guys provide guidelines in terms of making the ideal acoustic environment? So you have a certain noise floor that the room is going to have to meet, or a certain RT60 decay time. So when they stick this equipment in that room, they can get the accurate THX experience.
We do consult on rooms. We have a program that we have for that. So when you're putting in these systems in a room, we could work on the rooms themselves. But the guidelines are generally in the manuals for the products. So you look at the AVRs or the speaker products, you look in there, you'll see the guidelines for those. Some are more descriptive than others, and give you guidelines. But as you look at, they may include configurations but they certainly include a usage for the system, the product you have within the category.
I mean, any system that's THX certified meets a set of standards. That doesn't mean they all sound the same. This means that they're able to meet these really difficult standards. I mean, there's some systems that probably could meet the Dominus that are still ultra. They just haven't went through the test process. I know Atlantic Technology makes some heavy hitter stuff.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. You say that, I'm thinking of a few THX products that are that were used in the large rooms, even though they were our largest category, ultra certified. So that is certainly a possibility. Okay.
So I have a quick question before we go on. If somebody was to buy all THX certified ultra equipment, does that mean that system will definitely meet the requirements for that size room? So a 3,000 cubic foot room will hit the reference levels fine? Yeah,
you buy the AVR and the speaker combination, for ultra, let's say an Onkyo, receiver, and take your receiver and an ultra system. You're going to get that at 12 feet and in a room volume of approximately 3,000 cubic feet.
I think Onkyo was the first company to have a THX certified receiver, if memory serves.
I'm not sure.
The 919 THX,
yeah,
or the XVS 828 THX.
Yeah,
with the ED. Sorry, we're nerds. We're going back. So
yeah,
I think it was.
You don't have one behind you or something, do you?
Actually, the funny thing about that, I remember this clearly. The 828 Onkyo was the first receiver that had equal power from all channels, and it was a THX certified receiver.
It was 100 times 3 and 50 times 2. The 828 was not equal power. The 919 was.
I thought it was the 828.
Well, the 828 had the ED901 AC3 processor that sorry, Stephen, just reminiscing. Right. We go way back, man.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's get the slides up again.
The next one. Yeah. We continue to get rave reviews from our customers, and reviewers alike. So here's just a few here. The next one. We also have other offerings. We're doing a lot of great things in different areas. THX Ultimate Cinema is new for us. It's a PLF, a premium large format offering with fantastic images and sound from THX and THX Spatial Audio. You see that a lot in mobile devices that brings really great 360 sound to pretty much any content. And our AAA technologies within power amplifiers and more commonly in headphone products, where we have it's super low noise, super high, super low power consumption, super low noise, and plenty of power for something of that size. So for super high fidelity.
Low noise is an understatement. That product, everything it uses, it consistently measures about as good as is possible.
Right, and it's just such an efficient package too. It's just crazy that it works really, really well in mobile devices. So
I've been very impressed. I have a few products that have that, and the amplifier that Benchmark makes using that chip is pretty unbelievable.
That was a great one too, wasn't it? Yeah.
THX literally created modern home cinema. They literally created the standards that we've grown and expanded upon. And I know a lot of people said, "Oh, you don't need that. It's a gimmick and this and that." But it really isn't. These standards are very, very strict, right, Matt? I mean, you can tell that when you test them.
Yeah, when we test the gear, it measures. Yeah, we've never tested a THX product that I'm aware of that didn't measure among the best in class. It doesn't mean there aren't other products that also do, but I hear people, right. we can talk about this later, but I do hear people sometimes who will say, why should I waste the money on buying something that had to pay for that certification when there's other products that are just as good? And my counter argument is, how do you know that? Because those products were never tested that way. And most of the ones that we test wouldn't probably be able to pass those standards.
Well, I could tell you this much. I measure and bench test a lot of AVRs, and every single time I've measured one that had the proper bass management, it's always had a THX stamp on it. So, you know, the slopes of the crossovers were right. The summing of the bass was right. So kudos to that, because you guys set the benchmark on, first of all, the 80 hertz crossover. That's 95% of installs. 80 hertz is the best setting. Yeah, bar none. I mean, it just works.
Period.
Well, THX has been really good at sort of, looking and evaluating problems and providing solutions in those areas. So much like the cinema that I mentioned at the beginning, Tom Holman then, looked at the consumer industry and sort of, home theaters and what was evolving to be home theater at the time. And, just here, I mean, this is how we can make it better, how we can make it better, how we can make it better, how we make it better. And those became our standards for home theater. And so, we're fortunate to have had great minds within our company to start and to continue those great programs and build on that and deliver these entertainment experiences everywhere people consume content.
So we have a question here on the reference levels for all the different specs. Maybe you can go over that again real quick.
Okay. So for the rooms is actually all the same. The reference levels are all the same. We're looking at 85 dB at that listening position. What's different is that, obviously the output requirement for the speaker and power requirement from the amplifier could change for each one of those. As we talk about Dominus, right? So, there's more power from the amplifier and there's more sensitivity on the speaker side. So both those increase by a certain amount to deliver you a total of 6 dB on the other side. So there's more power, more output delivered by the system, and you then can go at a further distance away. In this case, probably up to about 20 feet for your room.
Well,
So
and I
the
think a lot of
subwoofer-
people might be. Oh, sorry, Gene. Go ahead.
I was going to say the subwoofer output is the same requirement, 85 dB at that, or is it you have to add 20
Well,
to that?
I think, Gene, you're getting at what I was going to ask. So I think a lot of people are familiar with and may be thinking about the peak output. So there's the 85. That's the mean or average output, and then the maximum for the LCRs, it's 105, right?
That you have plenty plus 20 dB.
Yeah, so it's 105, and then the subwoofers are 150.
scale.
Yeah, and the subwoofers are 115. It used to be, but Dolby, at least with Atmos, it said it needed to go to 120 because of the additional bass management of the additional speakers. I don't know if THX did the same
So
change.
So the difference in the 0.1 channel was that you would get some of that gain when you have some of that gain in the speaker amplifier or the subwoofer amplifier here specifically. So you'd have 10 dB of in-band gain that's applied to subwoofer to give you that kind of output. So when you're saying 85, your reference level for your center channel, for example, and then your amplifier for the subwoofer gives you plus 10 already. So you're looking at 10 dB over that, plus 20 dB of headroom. So pretty much what you said.
Okay.
And I think people sometimes misunderstand. They hear the 105 and they're like, who listens at 105? Well, you guys aren't suggesting you watch movies at 105 decibels. That's the headroom. It's 85 decibels.
That's the max, 0 dB full scale. It's the digital top. You can't get higher than that. So, you're looking at, louder and softer, sounds and weight. If you look at the waveform, literally, in music, you looked at a compressed or crushed waveform and it just sounds really loud because it's so compressed. But the movie sound is very dynamic, right? So you have very loud and quiet scenes. So it will never get louder than that because that's just the top of the digital scale, so you can't get any louder. So they live somewhere in there, but you have to set a reference level. So it's 85 dB in the studio, so they calibrate everything the same. So when the mixer mixes, it's mixing on a system that's calibrated at a number, and they say, okay, now the voice needs to be this loud, the sound effects that loud, or quieter, or softer. or whatever it is. And then when they're done, that's the product they've decided. And you take that same reference and you put it into a cinema or another home theater, and you've got A equals A. When you listen back on that system.
Basically, you hear what they intended because that's how they mixed it.
In the same thing. One thing that might be confusing, I think, especially for our receivers, is when you do the calibration mode, we calibrate at 75 dB, not 85 dB, and the reason for that is it's quieter, easier in the ears when you're doing your calibration. That's part of the processor. When you're done calibrating, that pad comes off and it's back to 85 dB. So 0 on your dial is 85 dB at listening. So if you're a full volume movie watcher, you're at 0 and that's 85 dB. If you're minus 10 kind of person, then you're down a little lower, right?
I don't know, man. 0 always seems a lot louder than 85 dB to me.
It
know
does.
what I mean? Yeah, it really does.
It's loud, but Don, I sometimes think maybe you're a plus 10 person.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, dude,
especially the bass.
Balls out, dude. Right.
Yeah. So
do it up.
Steve, I have a question. I'm just kind of pondering. So we're talking about all the different performance metrics if you have to meet to get THX certification. How do you feel about the post-processing that a lot of these AVRs do, like full bandwidth room correction? I mean, wouldn't that throw away some of what you're trying to do by getting certain dispersion characteristics of a speaker to behave a certain way? Now you're going and throwing on a post-filter room correction that's basically changing that.
Right. I mean, that's our technologies are based on just signal and delivering that signal in the cleanest way possible to the listener's ear, and we try to make sure any processing that is added is sort of sees that goal and delivers that goal. There are things that we've added over the years. There's technology we have in AVRs. We kind of mentioned, on this volume question here, Loudness Plus. There are 2 technologies in there that help rebalance the sound, the spectrum, and the sound stage for lower level listening. So in some cases, we think that there's really a good advantage to adding some processing things, and others maybe not. It really depends on if it delivers on the promise and the goal that is expected.
Gotcha. Hey, Steven, quick question. Anybody ever told you look exactly like Tommy Lee Jones?
He does.
Like, I loved you in Space Cowboys, man.
Wait, is it
is this Men in Black 3?
Is it Batman?
Play? What play?
Exactly. That's crazy.
That's hilarious.
So it is. So going back to the THX spec, I know the original Ultra, it was so rigid that most of the original THX Ultra speakers were really not very good on 2-channel music. M&K 150s, the Snells, Boston Acoustics, the Atlantic Technologies. But it seemed like when Ultra 2 came out, they kind of changed that a little bit and they were much more musical. Any thoughts on that, or am I just crazy?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that might be more related to speaker manufacturers and the way they decided to approach products. I mean, you're mentioning these per listens and listening to those, and that's it's
both. Yeah,
it's both. I mean, there's a great music listening and there's a great movie listening, and it's I guess if you look at there's a lot of drivers on there, right? And there's a lot of things that that I think now as we move and move forward in time are able to use all that stuff to our greatest advantage, and the waveguides and everything to give that people think of I can't listen to music on a movie speaker, but at the same time it's really what we think about our rooms is trying to make them as neutral as possible, so that it's not about a live space or a certain omni-radiating speaker filling rooms and doing things. These are all very, very musical products. It's just that you tend to think of them more as a movie product rather than a music product.
Right.
Yeah, to answer your question, Gene, back in the day when we did the THX certification, there was a whole lot of, you talked about the room. There was a ton of information on how to construct the room, how to treat the room. It was a holistic training. The certification was holistic. It wasn't just about speaker placement and using THX certified products.
Yeah, it goes in a lot in acoustics, because I think that's the most I would say underappreciated and possibly misunderstood part of sound, right? It's a room and speaker system, right? You have these fantastic speakers that what you say you spent many thousands of dollars on, and you throw it into a highly reverberant space, and you're like, wow, it just doesn't something that just doesn't quite sound right. I don't get the clarity and things. But then you put it into a treated room where you're not dealing with direct reflections coming back at you, coloring the sound. You're not dealing with, super aggressive room modes, making, every other seat sound incredibly different, right? With these subwoofers. So, that's a really important component to what THX does is educating onto acoustics and how important they are into great sound, especially when you bought some really, really great speakers. Make sure you can hear them to their full potential.
Yeah, we always try to tell people fix your room acoustics with room treatments, not with cables.
Yeah, or EQ. It's
here we go. Here we go.
EQ is last. EQ is certainly an essential part of it.
Yeah,
but you can't fix acoustics with equalizer. You can address some sort of an envelope and characteristic issues. But a reflection is a reflection, right?
Absolutely. Hey, Gene, I've got some THX certified monster cable wire if you want it.
Somewhere. Oh yeah, definitely, man. It's good stuff. Yeah,
back in the day, yeah.
Oh, I've got to contact us today for consultation. You can teach us all how to get our rooms in place.
Oh, nice. You're going to get flooded with emails now. Be careful.
Yeah. Well, especially if you're a manufacturer, or you want to, talk to us about THX certification of your products. I'd love to talk to you about that. Just see if we can build some great things together.
Yeah. Well, Matt, you had a question or something. I think one of us interrupted you on.
Oh, I was starting to say that we've argued in the past, Gene, James, you and I, that, Don, I'm sure you agree with this, that at the end of the day, sound is sound, meaning that a really well-designed product, a really well-designed speaker, for instance, that does what it's supposed to do, shouldn't only work with music or only work with cinemas. It should be able to do both and do it well. And we hear people constantly say, no, a speaker that's good for movies is only good for movies, and you need a speaker that's good for music. But my experience has been that when a speaker is designed right, it'll do both excellent.
I think when it comes down to, I'm sorry, was it my question?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. Okay, so here's a thought of mine. This is me thinking out loud to some extent, is that, for me, a lot of things that make things really musical are really have to deal with speaker linearity, right? That, when you get linearity from high frequency, low frequency, keep them, very minimum phase difference as you move across the response, that you then get really strong phantom images, right? So one is just response. I've got all the frequencies represented. It's not rolling off or this or that, but also that each of those are delivered at the same time to the listener's ear. I think that is kind of some of the things you hear more in musical, type speakers. And it's a sign of quality, basically. That's really not an easy thing to do, right? And being able to do that, and then also down in the lower frequencies have the integration between a satellite system and a subsystem. Also, aligning those things. So there's speaker linearity, there's system linearity, and then there's things like response and distortion things. Putting all those things together in a package give you that stuff where you go, yes, that sounds fantastic, no matter what I play in it.
I think the early on THX speakers, the designers were so hyper focused on that controlled dispersion using conventional dome tweeters or whatever versus a horn that I'm telling you, I listened to them. I probably owned 10 separate THX certified systems. The early on ones just weren't that musical in 2-channel. They were amazing in multi-channel. And I think a lot of that had to do with that dispersion with the array of tweeters and whatnot. I think they've learned to move past that, though, subsequently in years after that.
Well, I think those tweeter arrays are not as common today. And I think part of it, too, is that it's really hard to get a tweeter array to work right. And it requires a lot of good. I mean, Perlisten has done it, but their tweeter array is very different from what, for instance, M&K was doing before. Mm-hmm. And I think as much as it was for directivity control, I think it was also for output. At the end of the day, a 1-inch dome tweeter can't hit 105 decibels in a 3,000 cubic foot room. So you got to do something to help it get there, like use 3 of them.
Yeah.
Well, I think
motor on them.
Yeah, well, you're right. And so, I think some of it is, advancements in technology and development over time, right? You may be looking at the best you can do at the time. And, then there's new things you can do with it, new possibilities in processing, things that are more affordable for you to do that were unaffordable before, or like, maybe there's a different, material or something you have, or something that might make things a little more, make the conditions different to be more successful in that area.
I think part of the reason why you always hear that argument that these speakers are good in theater and not good for music is most of the time when they're in theater mode, you have 7 or more speakers playing at once. Whereas when someone's listening to music, it's 2-channel. You could hear the flaws in a bad speaker when just 2 are playing versus 7 or more. Mm-hmm. So there could be some of that playing into it as well. Yeah,
definitely, possibly. And maybe the content you're focusing different on listening to, there's no image, you just have two speakers on and I'm closing my eyes and listening, versus I'm enjoying a story, that's being told visually and audibly, right? So you have a lot more going on for you to pay attention to.
Are there more Dominus speakers in the works right now?
That's a good question.
Or can you not talk about it?
I can say stay tuned. Stay tuned.
We were going to get you drunk tonight and put you in a corner and get all the specs from you, but they wouldn't let me. So
that's actually, we've been joking. So I'll say kind of on that line that we, over the years, it's always been a struggle to find out more, because we want to know in some ways what makes these products special and what you guys do to make sure that they meet those standards. And I've heard, I want to be clear in saying what I've heard is nothing useful, meaning nobody will tell me the details. But over the years, I've said things to folks who have been part of your program, this would be a good idea. And they'd say, THX has studied that before. Oh, can you tell me about it? No. And so it tells me, though, that you guys do have a lot of research and development that you do. It seems like, for instance, what I've heard is a lot went into the Dominus spec that goes beyond what some people think of, which is that it's just a louder spec for bigger rooms. It seems like you guys actually did a lot of work to get to the point of where you got to for those products.
All right, I'll divulge a secret. It's been something we wanted to do a long time. So we've been. This has not been just something we thought of just yesterday and decided to put it in the market. So it's been a program we've been noodling on for quite a bit. And I guess frankly, it's been. I don't think the market was just not the market, but maybe the technology or was just ready for it yet. It just wasn't the right time when we wanted to do it. And now things kind of have come together with. The right partner and the right program to have people being able to support that type of room.
So I'm thinking from a consumer side, because there's a lot of different products to choose from with different certifications. You have THX on one end, then you have IMAX Enhanced on another. You've got THX for video, then you've got ISF for video, because you've got projectors that are calibrated to ISF, and you got projectors that are calibrated to THX. Is there a commonality between these kind of products that have these certifications? Do you guys have a similar goal, or do you achieve it in a different way? What can you give? What kind of advice can you give people when they're trying to make these kind of educated decisions?
Right. The best advice I can give is look for the THX certified product. You're right. I mean, we like I said, we started, nearly 40 years ago, looking at all these things and trying to make the entertainment experience better. Right. So, there's a lot of things that I think we kind of, brought out, first to market and way to try to address those. And, I don't know if I can't really comment on, what, other people or other standards are providing as modes, but, I think, I guess generally say, I guess we're all interested in quality, and we want to put out, make sure that the consumers have a very good experience, and we do it our way. We develop these, the modes or specifications or technologies, and work with partners to deliver that. So we're very happy to do so.
Okay. So one other question I have for you on AVRs. It's been a while since I've looked at a THX certified AVR, especially since Atmos has come out. Do you still have THX Cinema EQ, or has that gone away now? What are there post-processing that you would engage when you have a THX certified receiver?
For
Atmos.
For Atmos. So we support in different in areas like consumer audio and like cinema. We support all the immersive formats. As a format within our receivers. So as an Atmos stream's played or a DTS stream, we minimize any THX processing that doesn't support those playback systems. So if there's something that's in conflict, we're going to minimize any sort of interference. So there's a lot of technologies that run underneath that too that still keep the system aligned and performing as opposed to. So it could be a THX mode with somebody else's, technology supported.
So if I put a Onkyo receiver in THX mode and I'm watching an Atmos movie, it'll bypass its own internal EQ if I run EQ?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that one. Let's get back to you.
Okay. Well, we'll have to revisit that. It's been a while since we reviewed an Onkyo receiver, so maybe we should get one in, Matt.
Can you cite the three pillars of the original THX mode on receivers? The three pillars of it. Can you remember that?
The three pillars.
Re-equalization,
Yeah.
Decoralization
And the boundary.
timbre matching.
Yeah.
Timbre matching. Yeah, that was embedded in my brain.
Was it? Yeah. And bass management.
Well, bass management. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
right. Yeah. But yeah, those technologies.
That's a fourth pillar.
Fourth pillar. Those are key to the launch of home cinema, and don't forget dipole speakers too. Being part of all. Of that,
Oh yeah, that was part of the decoralization, right?
Decorrelation, right? And
so that's
an
interesting topic now. Personally, and probably Matt would agree with me. Dipoles are kind of out of fashion now with Atmos, with immersive audio. Do you guys still support dipole speakers for surrounds, or is that gone now that we have? Because that came out when we didn't have discrete surround sound.
Yeah, it was 2-channel or 4-channel.
Yeah. The dipoles are great. They serve a very specific purpose. They provide great envelopment in a few and just two speakers to your left and right. So you get a very diffuse environment, just like your cinema array in there. So they work really, really well for that. For more discrete types of playbacks, for these immersive sound formats, direct radiators really are a good way to go for the other channels that you provide that you have in that system. So generally when you look at those formats, they recommend direct radiating speakers, and we certainly support that, especially in these larger.
Have you guys thought about doing a specific certification for Atmos channels, for Atmos speakers, for different dispersion requirements for speakers that are mounted in the ceiling for immersive surround sound?
Good question.
Actually, not as a specific speaker type. A lot of the speaker types that we already support are certainly able to be used in those configurations.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I've actually used like the dual tweeter, the dual stereo single speakers. I've actually used those in like a bipole mode when I'm doing cinemas or even family rooms where I'm trying to do Atmos and I can't get the exact Dolby speaker layout. I'll use those and reflect them off to really make it more ambient and kind of compensate for that lack of position. So I'd love to see some kind of certification for an architectural an Atmos speaker would be cool.
He wants a done certification.
That's right.
Plays 10 dB louder than the rest.
No, I'd be happy with THX.
Bass turn right.
Yeah,
I love THX.
Yes. Yeah. So the configuration, I think, there's a lot of product that will support immersive formats in these rooms. Depending on where you put those.
I can't unsee the Tommy Lee Jones thing now. Thanks a lot, Tom.
Yeah, dude.
I got Bruce Campbell. I got that a lot. Bruce Campbell.
No, dude. I was looking at you going, that's Tommy Lee Jones. Wow, that's like a young Tommy Lee Jones. Wow. Whatever, awesome, man.
Oh, I got a great feature.
I own that, dude.
I appreciate you spending an hour with us to unveil some of this THX stuff that we've been wondering about for decades. I think you did provide some clarity here that we didn't have prior to this live stream. We'd like to invite you back. Obviously, we're going to have you back in October because we want to talk about some of your other technologies on here. So we'll definitely be doing that. But you know what? It sounds like you'd be a fun person to have as a regular guest if we want to talk about audio theory or anything like that.
Geek out on things and the Wayback Machine with Don.
Yeah. So normally what happens is we come on and then one person, they get like really fine chocolate and another guy gets some sort of really fine brandy and the rest of us talk about audio.
Or
we all have our vices.
Yeah. Journey into the history of THX with Stephen Tommy Lee Jones lookalike.
So we'll just do an Audioholics cocktail hour or something, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Social.
All right, guys, you have any other questions for Stephen? Otherwise, we're probably going to wrap this up.
Well, guys, it's been fun. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Stephen.
I was just going to say thank you. Thank you so much for having me on here. I really appreciate it. I had a great time, and I look forward for more great stuff from you guys too. So.
Yeah, I really appreciate that you've been paying attention to what we're doing. That's very flattering to know that you guys are paying attention. That's awesome. That means we're doing some of the right stuff, I guess.
Absolutely.
I'm still glad THX is relevant after all these years and making a comeback in certain ways. I'd like to see more Dominus products come out. I think that's really, really cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. All right,
guys. He's biting
his
lip, which means there probably are, and you're not allowed to know that.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Well, just realize, Don, if you ask for that kind of product, you're going to be the one that has to lift it because it's probably going to be big and heavy. So
that's good. I like big and heavy.
Yeah.
Strong like bull. Thanks, Steven. That was awesome. I was super excited to get to talk to THX because it's been a while since I've talked to anybody from there. So.
All right, guys. Well, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Hit the thumbs up. Tomorrow we have 3 more webinars for Cedia. Make sure you tune into that at 3:30 tomorrow EDT time. We're doing a an hour seminar or half-hour seminar on advanced bass management calibration. We're gonna have Storm Audio along with Anthony Gramani on. We're gonna be talking about that, and then shortly after that, we're gonna do post-calibration tweaks with DRAC. For those DRAC users out there that want to know how to get the best out of it. And then what I'm really waiting for, the crown jewel of all these live streams, is we're going to do a full hour webinar at 6 p.m. EDT time tomorrow, improving loudspeaker specification standards. We've got some incredible guests. We've got Dr. Sean Olive from Harman. We've got Anthony Gramani. We've got Shane Rich from RBH Sound. We have Dan Romer from Paralisten and Scott Orth from Polk. And of course, Matt is going to be there as well. So this should be a fun one. We're going to try to get this, try to get some standards knocked out on loudspeakers because, I remember Floyd Toole years ago saying that you get more useful information off the sidewall of a tire than you do out of a loudspeaker's manufacturer's website. So we're hoping that we can play a really small part in changing that and making things better.
More bass.
More bass. More bass. All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap. Don't forget about our Patreon channel at patreon.com/audioholics. And until next time, my friends, keep listening.